Hi everybody, I'm Prue Gowdy and I'm the founder of Adventure Travel Networking. We want to welcome you this afternoon or this morning, wherever you happen to be dialing in from, to our webinar. Thanks very much for joining, and just to let you know that we will be taking some questions as and when we can get to them. So if you have some questions as we're going through the webinar, please just pop them in the chat box and we will try and get to them during the webinar or towards the end. We wanted to do this webinar because we've all been coming out of this 2.5 years of pandemic, and there is no more important time than now to be communicating clearly and concisely with our customers. So we wanted to bring in some tech experts and to really have the opportunity to look at this subject and to discuss it at length and see where we are and what we need to be doing. So I just wanted to introduce Jono Vernon-Powell, who is the founder of Nomadic Thoughts, and he is also the Adventure Travel Networking moderator, and he will be our moderator for this afternoon. So we are in an ever fast changing landscape, including our Prime Minister having disappeared sometime this afternoon, and we don't really know what's happening there. So anyway, without further ado, we will move on, and over to you, Jono.
Good morning, good afternoon, hello everybody, and welcome, and thank you for joining us. As Prue says, communication is as ever king, and certainly our government are proving that in no uncertain terms in the opposite direction. The poll question that we flagged up to begin with, of what is your main challenge when communicating with your clients, very much sets the scene on what we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to communicate ourselves with this afternoon in UK time, or morning in the States as it is, or anywhere in the Americas. I think really what we want to try and do here is get a really good handle and focus on the power of technology today and how best to enhance that in going forward with the modern landscape of all things travel post-pandemic. And there's a particular emphasis today on adventure travel and the market that we all operate in with that. We've got a dynamic panel. We've got Alistair Luxmore from CEO of Vamoos and Flea Winter. I'm going to get Alistair and Mark Johnson from Hobnail Trekking and Mark Fancourt from TRAVHOTECH to introduce themselves and just put a flag in the ground as to what their expertise is. But certainly the narrative we're going to go on is going to be looking at the landscape we're operating in, how best to engage all things tech and move forward into what is a hugely exciting new development post-COVID. So without further ado, Alistair, welcome. Perhaps I could ask you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Jono. Thanks, Prue, and hello, everyone. It's great. I'm Alistair Luxmore from Vamoos, and it's really a pleasure to be from everyone at Vamoos to be working with ATN on this and various other projects. It's been a great collaboration. I'm very much here with my Vamoos hat on. I founded Vamoos about 8 years ago, and I did it because I run a travel company as well, Flea Winter, and we definitely wanted a mobile application to get us going, and there wasn't one, and it was too expensive to make. So we, together with some of our other founding companies, we started Vamoos. I'm also a hotelier as well. I've got a couple of hotels in Morocco, so I see a fair amount of the travel mix. But thanks, Jono.
Great, thanks, Alistair. Mark Johnson. I mean, we've got the two Marks, both in the States. I'll let them introduce themselves and explain where they're from. Mark Johnson, Hobnail Trekking. Over to you. Introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you, Jono, and good morning and good afternoon to everybody, and hello from Tennessee. I am the owner of Hobnail Trekking Company. It's a company we launched in 2017, so I'm still relatively new to the adventure travel space, but I'm an old soul in the field of communications. I've been working in communications for more than 20 years as a writer and editor and web developer and tech guy. So it's getting into adventure travel was fun for me from the standpoint of actually doing adventure travel and doing communications and adventure travel. So it's been a pleasure, and mainly because of the people we get to work with. So I'm just happy to be here and hope I can add something today.
I'm sure you can. Great. And baptism of fire 5 years ago, do the maths on COVID. I look forward to hearing further how you've developed.
Right.
Mark Fancourt, in Vegas, perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself as to where you are and where you're coming from.
Well, normally I'm in Vegas, but today I'm in a very chilly northern Florida. It's 6 degrees here, which is not the temperature that we associate with this part of the world. But yeah, thanks for having me. And my background is I consider myself a career hotelier, but I've been in the technology side of the industry now for about 25 years. I work, TRAVHOTECH's a technology consultancy for the travel and hospitality sector, and we work with operators of travel or hospitality facilities on their technology strategy and downstream projects from there. And then we also help the technology vendor community as well, which can be anything from strategic advice through to product advice or entry to market. So we see a lot of technology. We look globally at the industry, and we work globally in it. So hopefully I can give some level of insight that's valuable today. Thank you.
No doubt. Thank you, Mark. Great. Okay, let's kick off. I mean, I think, we're all sort of coming off the canvas post-COVID. We've got this incredible situation where the litmus paper or the touch paper's on fire, and we've got clients desperate to travel, which is hugely exciting. But it is a case of managing the best form of communication with clients as much as the destinations. Mark, with your hobnail trekking hat on, again, as we touched on, the fact that you've been relatively new to actual organizing of travel, albeit tech has been your background, perhaps you can share what your immediate observations are as to where we stand now, particularly with the facility of communicating with technology.
Sure. Well, I can tell you what my perspectives have been since I've been doing this. When I got into the industry, my goal was to provide the most professional and the clearest touch points for customers that I could. So for me, that meant designing, first of all, a website that would stand out and be. So
were you drawn in? So I'm going to jump in. Were you drawn into the industry, travel industry, adventure, trekking industry, through work you were already doing, or was it something that just sort of hit you in the back of the head and you thought, right, let's get the two? How did you get involved to begin with?
I got involved as the least qualified person on planet Earth to be an adventure travel company owner. So, and that's no joke.
Because,
well, my wife and I had a bucket list goal of doing the Everest Base Camp trek. And after reading Into Thin Air by John Krakauer about 10 years ago, and of course, when you read a story about the horrible and tragic deaths of people in the most terrible place in the world, in the most tragic ways, naturally, that's what you want to go immediately do. So, and that's a joke. I did not want to climb.
So you wanted to do that, and you wanted to then subsequently take responsibility for people in the same thing. Obviously, you're nuts.
Right, exactly.
How did it go? Two questions. One is, what made you decide to get involved in travel, adventure travel? And secondly, having done that, what are your immediate observations, obviously with COVID, but more importantly, here you are almost relaunching post-COVID.
Right. Well, what made us get involved initially was opportunity. And that sounds kind of silly, but it's true. It's I had no goal of doing this as a job, but I happened to meet an Everest Region Sherpa in Nashville, Tennessee, complete serendipity.
As you do.
Right, as you do in Nashville, you run into Everest Region Sherpas every day. So after meeting this young man named Dawa, it turns out that he owned a small trekking company in Kathmandu. And at the same time, I was leaving a corporate position in communications and wanting to get out of the stiff corporate world that I had lived in for a long time. And really, you know, when you get to a certain age, you want to do what the heck you want to do. You want to do something that makes you happy. And I realized that with my tech background and his trekking background, we could actually make something in the Southeast United States. The adventure travel culture is not as strong as it is elsewhere.
So how did, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm really interested. I want to, having set the scene. So how did you go from the thought to the practice?
We spent about 6 months researching the market in our area of the United States and deciding if this was something that we wanted to pursue. We realized that Dawa already had his network, you know, at 100% in Nepal.
So he's working stuff out in Nepal. You need to then communicate clients, specifically North American clients, to the activity of trekking in Nepal. Go on then, hit us with it. What tech did you use?
Yeah, he had no way of marketing over here. So I took over the mantle of marketing and communications in America by, first of all, building my own website. And that's, I use a WordPress environment. I'm a WordPress guy, and built it originally in something called Enfold, the Enfold theme, and then have moved that to the Divi theme. We wanted to build something, first of all, that, and this applies to all websites now, it had to be a responsive website. And frankly, I've seen in the adventure travel space a lot of old school websites that are not responsive. So that's a customer experience issue right there. And what you want to do, from my perspective, is you want to build trust in, if you're sending somebody to Nepal or Peru or wherever, those people need to trust you. They need to have a high level of trust. And if you can't provide them with solid communications, then you're not going to have that trust.
Okay, hold that thought. So you've put the link together, you communicated with the DMC, Destination Management Company, effectively. You put a platform out there, and obviously COVID's hit you, but let's assume you've been in an air pocket for a few years. Yeah. Can I switch across to Mark Fancourt? Mark, with your experience, well, what's your observations on, if you like, a case study of what Mark and Hobnail Trekking have been doing, and then broader terms as to, you know, the next step? I mean, what are we at here when it comes to being efficient with technology?
Yeah, look, I think the key here is that we're in the realm of the digital traveler today, and you know, certainly today's focus is on the adventure traveler, which has a particular need to be, you know, as Mark points out, probably more highly connected from an information source perspective. But ultimately, you know, today is a digital traveler, and that relies on a lot of two-way communication.
Mark, sorry to interrupt you there. We've got some background talking. I don't know if anyone's got someone behind them.
I'm in a hall, so
far away. Go for it.
Yeah. So there's no private space where I am at the moment. So sorry about that. It should be better.
Don't worry about it. Go for it.
Yeah. So you know, the digital nomad, which is probably a more broader pool for your adventure traveler, is a highly connected person, a highly digital person. And today, your traveler in general, and particularly in this genre, wants to be in control, wants to be in communication, wants to drive their experience, because naturally they're more intrepid. You know, they're willing to take, as Mark points out, if you're going to go up Everest, you're a risk taker. You know, you're willing to put yourself out there on the edge. And I think that goes with all things. You know, you often find people in this space who because they're quite extreme in the things that they do, they're quite extreme in most things in their life, and that includes technology adoption as well.
So it's a kind of dual attack then, you're saying. It's improving the customer experience, so at the same time empowering them, or supporting them to being empowered.
Yeah, no, I think probably even more so in this particular space, it's the empowerment side. you're there to support them because they're
So
forging
go on
their
then,
own
what
way
sort of
in
tech
life.
are you finding is the most appropriate? in
Well,
doing both
today,
of those?
today, the big trend is a strong move towards CRM, but going beyond CRM to personalization now. And I'm sure Mark would speak to this very specifically in the space that he's in. But adventure travel, whilst it's a small space, it's a big space because there are so many different angles that someone can go off and be intrepid in. So reaching customers through digital communication platforms, both in a static and a real-time way, targeted down to what they want to do, is the key to the next generation of travel in general, when it comes to the digital realm.
So Mark, does that ring true with yourself? I mean, it sounds like it's, first and foremost, get a platform out there where you can engage and embrace people, customers. And then after that, you've got to make sure that the communication is wholeheartedly bulletproof regarding for what they want. Is that what you'd surmise?
Absolutely. And I will add that, we have to meet customers where they are these days, and where they are is increasingly becoming mobile apps, and which is why we're here today, and to a large part. But if you think about how anybody uses your technology, most of our technology is done on our phones, and very little of that relatively is done on websites on phones. We're going so heavily toward apps that it's impossible to ignore that now. And as Mark said, the people that are in adventure travel, they want to, they're cutting edge people.
So they want it at their fingertips and ready.
They want it at their fingertips.
Okay.
And so it's only natural that we're going in that direction. And as someone who builds mobile apps myself, that's even a stronger element for me personally. So
okay, I want to bring Alistair in on this. Alistair, you've very much, certainly here in the UK, blazed a trail with all things Vamoos, and the technology is not only ever expanding and ever developing. But on the back of what both Marks have just said, what are your observations of where we are right now, coming towards the end of 2021, moving into 2020, well, 2022 even, going into 2023?
Yeah, no, thanks, John. No, I think we're at very early stages. I mean, I know everyone would say it, but we really are only scratching the surface. And I think, and I think we've come from a bad place in the travel sector, to be honest. We've been very loose with communication. We've put an awful lot of effort into designing nice websites and nice flows to get that dollar, to get that booking deposit paid. And then you sort of enter a wilderness. Once the deposit's paid, what's it? Oh, well, we'll talk to you again just before you go. But hang on, I've just spent $10,000, £10,000 on a trip. Surely I should get something for this and get some others. And this was one of our, and we didn't design it this way. This was pure chance. When we launched Vamoos, we launched it to help you during your travel phase. The first bit of research we ever did on it came straight back saying Vamoos is used, the biggest time it's used is pre-travel, between booking and boarding, as we say, which was...
So the timeline of the booking is absolutely paramount, that you're hitting it as you're going along.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the point. You've got to keep it going. Don't just take the deposit and say, thank you very much, we'll talk to you in 6 months time. People want to share what they've booked. They want to get excited about it. They want to enjoy. And that is... It's actually part of the holiday, part of the trip for me. You don't just spend the money for those 10 days or week that you're there. You want it to stretch. You want the build up to be exciting, and you want when it finishes to be exciting as well. So you've got stuff to relive it, because that it's one of your biggest spends each year, and you want to get everything out of it and use that to escape. And I remember it was a classic sort of focus group type comment from a guy who said, "Look, I've just had a terrible day in the office. I'm sitting on the tube on the way home. I get the app out. I start looking through my holiday. I go, yep, sod him. This is where I'm going to be in 3 weeks' time." And that's what we're selling in the travel industry. We're selling that whole excitement, not just from the minute they get on the plane or even get off the plane. So I think that's the thing. And we've been lax. We've missed that chance to really build relationships and build communications. And why do I say early days? Because of what Mark Fancourt was just saying. We're just still at this stage, we're still spraying stuff out. When you start really personalizing it and taking people on the journey, then then you're properly into the phase. And that's where we fight back against the sort of the OTAs and the independent bookers. We take our experience to really add value through the whole of the travel experience. And that's me talking as a travel person, not as a...
So it's very much re-endorsing, sorry, Prue, I'll pop to you in a minute. Yeah, very much re-endorsing what Mark Hobnail Trekking saying, which is firstly, right from the word go, get the tech in position to engage the clients. And then after that, throughout the whole journey of the trip, which is from pre-booking, booking, waiting, going, and during and as much as after the trip, make sure your tech is up to speed throughout. Before we cross to Mark Fancourt, just wanted to get your observation. Prue, what did you want to share?
I just wanted to make a comment on that, because the pattern with adventure travel bookings very much at the moment is that people are booking closer and closer to departure. So that means our window is getting smaller. Mm-hmm. So I think there should be a lot of emphasis put on post-travel as well, because there's nothing that people enjoy doing more than not only boasting that they're going somewhere, but this is where we've been, or this is while we're here, but this is where we've been, this is what we were doing 5 weeks ago, we were here, and blah, blah, blah. And I think that our window's getting smaller, so it's something that is probably even more urgent that we are looking at how we're communicating with them, and not stopping that communication once our clients come back. That's all. Back over to the expert.
Mark Fancourt, what are your thoughts on what the others have just said?
Look, I think key from the business perspective, is that even in a field as specialised as adventure travel, there's still cannibalisation going on out there, and the big upstream players, the OTAs, the global tour companies, so on and so forth, have a product for everyone. And I think, just touching on both Mark and Alistair's points, is that, the key here is the maintenance of the relationship. The key is, once you've got a customer who wants to work with you in a specific space, to hang on to the customer. And the best way to do that is to be in direct communication with them. I think the other thing that Mark touched on too is that, when we talk about apps, that there are two different schools of thought, but I think particularly in relationship to adventure travel, a lot of people in adventure travel are offline, and that makes the app side of it so much more important, because they literally can take the data with them, whereas if you are relying on internet connectivity in certain places of the world where it doesn't exist, and let's face it, you don't have to go too far off the beaten track to get to that status, even in
and presumably the economy of scale as much as
but yeah, look, I think it's the sinews, Jono, and that's the key here, is maintaining that relationship beyond the actual purpose, both in advance, through the experience cycle and out the other side, but even beyond that, making sure that they're going to be your customer in the long term, and that they'll be coming back to your business versus finding their way to someone else. And we know the statistics that are out there about the amount of research that goes into the average travel experience, let alone something as complex as adventure travel, and how many different information sources that the traveler will touch. How do you make sure that you're the first one, and that they keep coming to you?
Well, I think the observation as well, of course, with tech, which is great, it's an economy of scale, and that it doesn't matter what size you are or how many activity adventure programs you're running, there's no real excuse for not being efficient in your line of communication, whether you're a small family business or one of the global players.
Jono, I say to my clients all the time, size has nothing to do with it. And today, most customers are digital. Tomorrow, all customers will be digital. So if you're not there, you're not there. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Alistair, we're going to ask you shortly to bring us up to speed on things with Vamoos, particularly focusing on what we're chatting on here. But I wonder if you've got any sort of particular observation on the back of what Mark and Hobnail Trekking's experience are over the last 5 years, which is set up, launch, deal with COVID, and now kick on. My question is really more loaded about here we are at this moment in time. What do you feel are the most important things for a travel company, bearing in mind you own a tour operator as much as hotels, etc.?
Wow, John, that's a tricky one. You know, as I say, frankly, from a travel company perspective, I'm sure many of you have experienced it. It is about getting back up to speed and delivering that service, even though people in your team will have moved on, processes will have changed. And I think where the difference is, though, is can you do it better than you did before? And you may have to, because you don't have the number of resources. But if you can marriage that sort of requirement for resource with some of the tech that's available and make it win-win for you, for your bottom line, and for the customers, then that's got to be the big advantage. So rather than scrabbling to just do what you did before, just put a bit more effort into saying, no, let's reinvent this and make it better. And lots of companies are, and we were astonished how even within the COVID period, we thought, at Vamoos, we thought, okay, this is it, let's wind up shop, we'll reopen when things settle down. But no, many companies were investing and were working out ways to do things better during that time, which was a real eye opener. Because I say, I'm a little bit skeptical about the strategic side in a lot of travel companies. It can be a bit day to day.
Well, interesting that Mark,
maybe that's changing.
Mark Fancourt very much nodding his head. T'other Mark, would you say that the technology landscape has changed dramatically in the last 3 years? In other words, since you set up, we've dealt with COVID, or not so much?
And you're talking to me?
Yeah.
Give me.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is you set up, we're ready to go. COVID, boom. Okay, we've come out of COVID 2.5 years later. What's the tech landscape in comparison to what it was 2.5 years ago?
Well, I think it's, like I said, it's even more app based than it was 2 years ago. And I've watched this happen in my other fields of work. I've watched this happen over the past 10 years. So, it used to be 10 years ago that it was really only websites, and an app was this really cool, strange, esoteric thing, that not many people could afford. So
it's very much app based, and yes,
it very much is.
Yeah,
right.
Prue, does that ring bells with you, with the Adventure Travel Network community?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that people took that opportunity over the pandemic to update their technology, and they took that opportunity to really sort of revisit many areas of their business. And I think that technology was one area that it keeps getting put off, and that was a time that they didn't that they really took to look at how they could improve things going forward.
Sure. Okay, Alistair, share what you've got to share, obviously with all things Vamoos, because Vamoos not only is a terrific platform to do everything we're talking about, but it's ever evolving. So yeah, share if you wouldn't mind sharing where we're at the moment.
Thanks, John. Yeah, no, just thought I'll do a quick run through for those who aren't familiar with Vamoos of some of the features. I will try not to make it too salesy, but at least it will mean you'd be able to look at something other than our faces for a bit. So let's see how we get on here. Okay, yes. So Vamoos, as I say, we launched it 6 or 7 years ago for travel companies. In the last few years, we've also launched a version for hotels as well. Very much the research said we love having all our travel documents and travel information together. But what about when we arrive at our hotel or resort? What's available? So that's the spectrum of the two products that we sell. And as I said earlier, I've got this chart which is showing the stages of the booking, and I referenced it earlier. We designed it for the experience stage. It's actually turned out to be just as powerful in the preparation, if not more so, in the preparation and loyalty stage. We also do have a booking process, so a quote tool as well. It's not our focus. I mean, this is the interesting point. We are very focused on those specific functions and doing them well. And we get a lot of pressure from our clients say, hey, can you turn this into a booking system? Can you turn this into a quote system? And we do a bit, but at the moment our priority is to really focus on that whole post-booking experience right through to post-trip. And I'm not going to. There are hundreds of. There probably are hundreds of features now since we're adding them the whole time. But let me just give a flavour of a couple of them. For the travel product, the main element is the itinerary, the what's going on day by day. You're linking it from the home screen, you're taking, and then you can go through and dive down into each day and into maps and things on each day. And the only thing I would point out here, and one of the reasons for this chart, and hopefully all of them, is we try and keep it very visual. The brief to our designers is an app that doesn't look like an app. We must not look like an eBay app or a Gmail app in that sense, and that's what gives all the wrong associations. But our inspiration is old school brochures. That's where we go for. We want that. We want your phone to look like a travel brochure when you're navigating it, and we're really strict about that. We'll do that. We give space to the imagery, even if it means people have to scroll along the bottom to get all the icons they want. We think that's a sacrifice worth making, because it is all about the experience and making that experience special.
Alistair, we've had a question from Peter saying, what if my clients are older, not digitally, savvy, as it were? How have you found the app, and how successful have people managed to negotiate that?
We've been amazed. We think there is some truth in that. There's also some fallacy in that. And we get particularly, I had a feedback from one of our hotel clients the other day saying our older owners are more into downloading it. Our younger ones can't be bothered. They say, yeah, move on, just tell me what to do. But they're happy to put the time and effort in. And one of our travel clients says, what, you're talking about the iPad generation? They love it, and they go in and they go for it big time. And as I say, I think it was Mark Fancourt who said earlier, it was digital, it was part digital, it's going to be all digital. It's coming fast. So I would give them a chance, and it's really simple to use, and we get that feedback. I say absolutely never comes back, and we're getting it to now so 80–90% of customers for a given client who are using it, especially if it's done in the right way. And we have fun features like, obviously, the great thing about digital as well is you can have things like we link it to flight information, so you get a mini departure board in your hand. And we encourage our clients, don't tell your travelers about this, let it find it for themselves when the alert comes. And puts a real smile on the face when they say go to gate B, go to gate 4A for your flight there, and they know ahead of everyone else, and same with any delays or changes in schedule as well. So that's the opportunities once you've got that digital relationship with your traveler is just goes it goes deeper and deeper.
You draw them in.
Yeah. Now this is a big one. Now so this is what we call our inspiration section. I'm not going to talk about it. So this is what happens post trip. You effectively, the key is not to let this relationship with the traveler end. And we have this facility to effectively turn the app from being the travel app into a newsletter app. And I'm going to be honest, not many people are using this well, and I think that partly is a COVID thing as well. But keep them linked, tell them about the next adventure that's coming, so that every few weeks there's a new little thing for them to appear, and goes with a notification as well, and gets them excited about what's come down the track. Now, we will be developing this technology. We've got some really exciting things coming up in the post-trip space that I'm not going to go into now. But that whole area, we recognise that is a big area to develop. Just switching to the hotel product, very similar to the travel product, but if the engine room of the travel product is the itinerary, with the hotels, it's the directory. So what goes on, what time's breakfast, how do I log onto the Wi-Fi, making everything searchable and absolutely at the fingertips. Another feature we've always had, particularly for both hoteliers and our travel clients, is the ability to send those notifications. So send messages out. Don't forget to sort your visas out if they're needing to be done, or those sort of key reminders. Or you're not using warm boots, or you make new boots, or you make sure they're worn in before you travel. They can really make that personalized. And no one has ever told us there's too much communication. In that booking to boarding phase, people want to find out what's going on. They want to be excited. They'll talk to it till the cows come, talk about it till the cows come home. So it really is about designing it to work effectively. And if you're sending messages one way, they can send messages the other. And this only launched a couple of years ago, and our travel company friends were saying, yeah, we like messaging, but we're not sure how much we like it, because our clients already have many ways to contact us. And then about 3 years ago, they came to us and said, actually, we've noticed our consultants are all giving out their WhatsApp numbers. So can we have it? We'd rather they didn't do it on WhatsApp. We want to do it within our space, our branded space. So the messaging has come, and it's been really powerful, very, very much used. And hotel clients absolutely love it, because they can actually remove the phones from room phones for this as well. It's very powerful. And then we have things like the map, adding your expertise, putting on favorite points of interest. And this is what I mean about taking our content, our knowledge, and being able to share it. And it's all offline, so people don't have to have a connection. Once they've downloaded this, it's there from whenever they want, even if they're traveling and they don't have connection. And as long as they've got a GPS, a satellite signal, they know where they are and they can follow their way around. So it's a really powerful way of bringing your expertise, and you only load it once to your platform, and it goes to all the customers who are in that area as well. So it's a very efficient way of sharing that. And then even more exciting, and it's not actually launched, it is available on the platform. If we've got any Vamoos customers, you can play with it now. You can play with it now, though we haven't publicly launched it. Is we now do tracks, and this was very specifically asked for by the Adventure Travel Company. So we want to be able to show routes, so you can follow the blue tide. I'm showing it here for a city tour, but of course it works as well for a bike ride through the mountains or a scenic drive, indeed. And so that's our new feature. It's live on the system now. So if you're a Vamoos customer, then get in there and try it and tell us what you think. I think we'll be officially launching it in a couple of weeks' time. So that's very exciting, and that's the great thing, this ability to do different things and bring out new things for as we go along. And finally, we have our biggest play is we have a hotel system, and we have a travel system, and we can link the two together. And this is very exciting. So that if ever you're using a hotel, we'll ultimately want it so any hotels that you are using, it can be lodges or hostels even, they have their own Vamoos, and just by linking them, you're automatically sharing real-time information with your travel clients. And it's a big ambition of ours. I have to say, we don't underestimate the challenge of that. We've already got thousands signed up to it, and there's no charge for the hostels and hotels and things to come on. But that really does that starts super enriching the experience. And who knows, one day we'll have the local tour operators, restaurants and things in there. So you really do get an enormous depth of information. It's not for everybody, but if you want it, it's down there. You just dive into it and make the most of this these fabulous trips that you guys and we all design. So there we are. That's me done. I'm not sure what to schedule, John.
Thank you, Alistair. That's great. Well, we've got sort of 4 or 5 minutes to wrap up here, and I think just picking up on what you've done there, Mark Fancourt. I mean, Alistair very much, did the narrative of dreaming, research, booking, preparation, going on the trip, and then a real focus on post-trip. Is there anything that stood out for you that particularly is relevant now as to where the tech's going?
Look, I think, again, as I said earlier, it is a personal aspiration now, and any business that wants to be in travel or hospitality, for that matter, needs to focus on tightening up their message to be specific to the customer that they're serving. And regardless of the different mechanisms that you do that, generic messaging is not the way anymore. It needs to be about what they're interested in, because they're receiving so much content from so many different sources in their life. And I think that's the key. So the tighter you can make that relationship, the longer lasting you can make it, the better off you'll be.
And presumably make sure the bang for each communication buck is spot, on point. In other words, you're not waffling, you're actually giving them what they need. Yeah.
Indeed. Yep.
Mark, hobnail trekking, Mark, what's your sort of take-out points from this? What are you going to go away with that you think is going to be particularly poignant on what we've discussed this afternoon?
Well, I totally agree with Alistair in that, our job is really the booking to boarding part. And especially, our job here in the States, that's what we do, is we get people excited and we get them prepared. Once they go, they're doing their own thing, and that tech decreases in importance in my view. But it's really it's getting them on board, and then making sure that they've got what they need prior to departure. And the other thing that I'll add is, it doesn't matter how good our tech is if you don't have proper communication. So communication is the other element of this. And I tell my kids all the time, as an old English major, I tell my kids, learn how to write, learn how to express yourself clearly and professionally, because if you don't express yourself that way, that it really, the tech part will take a nosedive. So be consistent in your communication, be a good writer, use proper grammar, be consistent, and then the tech part will just elevate that to a much higher level.
So Prue, that's really endorsing your communications, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, keep it human, make sure
exactly. Yeah, keep it human. And I don't think anyone will ever complain that you gave them too much information. And I think, honestly, the question that came up about the older traveller, when I go on the tube, I see these old people on their iPhones all the time. People older than me got an iPhone before I did, and I was looking and I thought, crikey, if they're using an iPhone, I need to get myself in, with the beat. And I think that they've got the time to learn it and they want to learn it. So I think that I think that people shouldn't be fearful about leading their customer towards tech and helping.
Certainly, that's answered Macca's question. So thank you for that. Which is
well, I think, John, I just think there is a point there, and it is, the point. Make the point that yes, I mean, we've with Vamoos, for example, we've made it very easy to load PDF documents. But if you're designing PDF documents that were designed to print and putting them on a device, that's a no-no. You do have to move on from there, and you have to think about the context that they're done. So I think there are definitely some key points, and that's not. I mean, I won't kid ourselves, and we don't go in saying, okay, you can press a button and Vamoos is done tomorrow overnight. There is an investment in the time, as there is with all technology, into making it work. You do get out what you put in. I'm afraid it's not a silver bullet in that sense.
Yeah,
and Alistair, further to that point.
So I was just going to say, Jono, that yeah, look, older people are a segment of your customers. They're a segment of your customers. They're not all of your customers, and yes, in every business, you've got to provide the choice and you've got to provide the avenues that support all of your customers, and that's expected. So for those customers that you have to maintain a more manual approach, then that's what you've got to do. But over time, that won't be the customer. And I think that's the point here, is that, you touched on before, Jono, about smaller businesses. And what I find is that smaller businesses think that they don't have to have the same technology as bigger businesses. It's actually the opposite, because you need scale and technology gives you scale. So you're preparing yourself for the future, as well as addressing customers that are already in that space now and expect that level of communication. And if you've got older customers who are not tech savvy, it's no different for any business in that circumstance. You still got to help them, and you've got to find the way to do it. But that doesn't mean that you ignore the progress for your business and towards the future customer at the expense of the customer that you have today.
So the community, I mean, probably the conclusion is it's an ever-evolving landscape, and we've got to make sure we're on it. Well, thank you all very much. We're out of time, actually. There was another question, which was, are there any features specific to adventure sector on Vamoos? But I think probably the best thing to do is ask, it's an anonymous question that's come up. I think the answer to that is engage with Vamoos, because they are not only terrific on what they do, but they're particularly good at communicating, as Alistair has highlighted, exactly what the product can't do, and more importantly, is going to do. So both Marks, Alistair, thank you very much. Prue, back to you. From my perspective, I think it's been fascinating, and thank you for joining us, everyone. Back to you, Prue.
Thank you. Thanks, Jono. And thank you to our panelists today. And thank you to Vamoos for helping us to organise this. And I just wanted to quickly remind everybody that's dialed in today, and thank you very much for dialing in and listening. Please make sure you save the date for the Adventure Travel Networking Conference and Marketplace, which is taking place in February next year. So we're having a virtual marketplace with supplier, buyer, pre-scheduled appointments, and we're having an in-person conference on Thursday, the 23rd of February. So that's going to be in central London somewhere, to be disclosed at a later date. So please make sure that if you don't have the information or you don't know much about it, get in touch with me. Look at the website, it's adventuretravelnetworking.com, and we would like to welcome you into the event on whatever capacity you want to come, whether it's a exhibitor or a buyer or just to come to the conference. You are welcome. I think this has been a really good discussion today, and I think that it could very well be a panel session that we look to run to carry it on, and we could perhaps touch on the fact that that we might have that challenge with older customers and how we get around that. So anyway, they're just ideas. If you've got any ideas that you want to share with us, please let me know. But thank you to everybody. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to Jono. And we hope to see you in February. Okay, bye.